Growing up, for the longest time, I always struggled with finding things that I was legitimately good at. I'd always see people around me who seemed to be infinitely more talented, making friends with strangers without batting an eye with a level of confidence I could only ever dream of. We're just playing guitar songs that I love flawlessly while I struggle to even fret the right fucking chords without muting half the fucking strings. Or simply put, just actually succeeding at life while I felt like I was getting further and further behind every single fucking day. Q 10 plus years of failing to be anything outside of mediocre, it definitely got jading after a while, and to be honest, it just made me want to throw in the towel more and more and just say fuck it all. Well, little did I know though, that was the sole reason why I sucked as much as I did, and why I was going nowhere in my life. And after learning that fact, that's when I decided to make a shift that actually meant something for once. In today's video, I wanted to go ahead and talk about just that. If you feel like you've been stuck in some fucked up limbo of inconsistency and failed promises for years without any way out, then this video is going to be meant for you. And honestly, with the New Year's coming up, there's going to be a lot of people making failed promises in the coming months, so let's figure out how not to be one of them while you continue to watch me build this giant ass wizard tower. Alright, so first things first, let's answer the question. Why do you always quit? Well, if you're anything like me, then the answer is honestly, you just feel like you're so ass and your progress as a whole is so slow that continuing is basically just a pointless waste of energy that won't actually amount to anything whatsoever. For instance, when I was first getting into the gym, I was super fucking motivated. I would go for 5 days in a week and pump out these long ass workout sessions, and I felt incredibly hopeful for the future. But here's the thing though. By the end of the first month, I remember looking back at my day one photos and comparing them to where I was at that point, and I honestly felt like I saw zero progress whatsoever. I just spent hours upon hours of my life doing these hard ass workouts just to still look like I never hit the gym once in my fucking life. After coming to that realization, I was just straight up fucking pissed. I saw so many people around me who looked 10 times fucking better, and here I was just looking like an idiot. And as a result, I just decided to stop fucking going. The thing I didn't understand though at that moment was that those people around me were what I could have fucking been. What I didn't see was the countless amount of hours they spent over the course of months or years to actually develop themselves, and I only judged them based off my superficial perception of progress and just assumed that they had some secret trick that I could never fucking find. Well, I did eventually find out what that trick was. It was consistency and discipline, which brings me to the first lesson of this video. If you want to actually make progress and see something worthwhile, you need to actually maintain consistency in order to get it. Wow, thanks Firefar. Who would have thought that if I wanted to stop giving up, I simply needed to stop fucking giving up? What an astounding revelation, you retard. Yeah, no need to remind me. My genius astounds me too. Jokes aside though, what I really want you to get out of that statement is to remind yourself that most good things in this life take time to achieve. A great physique, getting good at your hobbies, an actually profitable career, yada yada yada. All the time we fall in this trap of thinking that if the results aren't immediate, then we're probably doing something wrong, or there's no point in continuing. And that's what I'm really trying to make clear here. For myself, I was only a month into lifting, and I immediately felt like everything was pointless or that I was suddenly doing something wrong just because I wasn't jacked as hell. Truth was, I was doing everything right. I just needed more fucking time, and had I maintained that consistency, I would have seen all my hard work pay off by the end of that year, and I could have been one of those people that I envied in that moment in time. Instead though, I decided to quit. A year later, I decided to give it another shot, and I told myself that I would stick it out for an entire year. What do you know? By month 3 to 4, I actually started developing a body that I honestly felt proud of. And I didn't change a single thing. I kept the same routines, eating habits, whatever. The only difference was my consistency, and that's what you need to understand for yourself. If you feel like you're not making progress at all, that's when you need to seriously double down on continuing. And trust me, I get it, overcoming these hurdles aren't going to be fun, they're not going to be easy, and it's going to be a massive pain in the ass, but once you climb over that fucking hill, you'll have a nice hill to slide down, and you'll be able to enjoy your progress for that entire ride. You just need to keep pushing past it. Hell, like even with this YouTube channel, man, it took me 4 months before 10 of you decided to listen to my brain-dead ramblings. And because of that, I didn't decide to give up, and as a result, a month later, I now have 84 of you wonderful people supporting me. So just stick it through. So to recap everything here, hurdles are going to be normal. It doesn't always mean that you're doing something wrong or really are as terrible as you think you are. It's just a barrier to surmount in order to move from mediocrity into talent. And your choices are going to be the only thing that determines whether or not you'll actually reach that point. And once you do, giving up is no longer going to be an option for you. Alright, hard times are expected, and I recognize that. What next? The second mindset shift I had to make in order to stop giving up was recognizing that I needed to stop comparing my journey with everybody else's. This one is pretty obvious, yet single handedly is one of the biggest issues I see around me. Comparison is going to be the biggest killer of confidence, so you need to knock that shit off right when it starts. One huge example of this I saw was when I started grappling in jujitsu. There were a variety of different people that I would see come into my gym. You had those who expected to dominate on the mats just by showing up, and those who came to learn regardless of whether or not they got their shit rocked. I was the latter. For every day for around 5 months, I would get choked out, contorted into fucked up positions, and smothered by people who were half of my size, despite being a 200-pound man. And honestly, it was pretty eye opening. But the thing was, each day I focused on what I needed to improve and how I could be a better me when it came to my grappling. And as a result, I improved a ton. On the other side of things, though, there were also a few folks who came in and were, to put it simply, humbled. They were forced to face the reality that they weren't as good as they thought they were, and for most of them, they didn't like that revelation. They kept focusing on everybody else instead of their own journey, and it kept creating cycles of trashier and trashier jujitsu before they eventually stopped showing up altogether. For them, it wasn't about bettering themselves, it was about finding a way to boost their ego, and when their ego wasn't stroked, there was no point in staying for them. What I really mean to say with all of this is that by focusing on everybody else, you only serve to demolish your ego. You're just going to feel shittier and shittier about yourself because guess what? You're actively focused on people who invested much more time into something in comparison to you. And you're going to feel so fucking far behind no matter how hard you try. I was able to tolerate getting my shit rocked and embarrassed for those 5 months straight because I was able to focus on my own improvement in those moments. Thinking to yourself, hey, I only got topped out 2 times that round instead of the 13 from the last class. I'm getting way better instead of, holy shit, I'm still a complete ass after 5 months of training makes such a massive difference. No one else's progress matters outside of your own, so stop psyching yourself out before you barely even started. Take those small wins and fucking roll with them. Alright, so with lesson 2 out of the way, let's focus on the last one. This one seriously hits home for me, and I don't think I would be where I am now today had I not internalized it. Now, that lesson is recognizing what failure means for you. Every time I started to lose faith in whatever process I started, whether it was losing my weight when I was morbidly obese, having barely any dating success at my lowest point, or contemplating taking my own life when the depression got to be too much, I always ask myself a question in those fucking moments. What does giving up mean to me? It might sound stupid and super basic, but when you actually sit down and really start thinking about it, you peel back so many layers that show you how blind you really were. Giving up my weight loss would mean that I would have basically proved those who made my life hell for my weight right. It would mean that I truly was as useless as I thought I was, and that I would remain in a body that I hated for the rest of my fucking life. Giving up on dating would mean that I would be alone for the rest of my life, dying alone with a grave that never received any flowers. I would never find that person to start a family with, and I would have nobody to experience the joys of love with. And lastly, going through with my suicide plan would mean that my sister would be without a brother, my parents would have lost a child, and I would have just ended up being another statistic instead of leaving an impact on the world that I desperately wanted to help. I ask myself these questions all the time, especially when I was pushed to that edge. But more and more, I realized that the more I quit, the more I found another reason to hate myself. It gets you to stop and think for a second every time you do ask yourself that. Do I really want this for myself? I'll stick with it a little longer. I'll keep trying to find that match wherever she may be. I'll postpone the date I set for myself. I can't put into words how much better life has gotten for me by reflecting as much as I did. I'm now in the best shape of my life with a loving girlfriend who I wouldn't trade the world for. I'm finally at the point where my depression doesn't have me holding a knife to my wrist trying to work up the courage to end it. Just take that moment, man. I want it to be a testament to you that shit really does get better. It just takes time, and I know it fucking sucks. But when you finally reach that point, you'll be so grateful that you managed to love yourself enough to stay. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, man. But hey, I don't want to keep you here too long, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video off on that note. Just to recap everything, the biggest thing I need you to do in order to actually go somewhere without quitting right off the bat are 1, recognizing that results aren't going to be instant, but it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong if it's taking you longer to expected to reach a goal. 2, focusing on your own progress and journey. And lastly, 3, asking yourself what failure means. I hope you got some use out of this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing or dropping a comment. And before I head out, I just want you to know that I love you all and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, man. Until next time.